Learn English through story. Forbidden Nights. The city of Valorous was a maze of narrow alleys, tall, crumbling buildings, and flickering lamps that cast long shadows into the night. During the day, it was a place of trade and commerce, where merchants peddled their wares and the streets were crowded with workers, scholars, and travelers. But at night, when the sun dipped below the horizon, Valorous transformed into something darker. It became a city of secrets, where the respectable lives of the daytime disappeared into whispers, illicit desires, and hidden indulgences. Sabrina was a woman caught between two worlds. By day, she was a seamstress, a respected figure in her neighborhood. She lived a modest life, sewing garments for the wealthy patrons of the city. She worked hard and earned enough to keep her small shop running and her bills paid. Her clients trusted her work and valued her quiet professionalism. No one suspected that Sabrina harbored a secret life, one that began as soon as the sun set. By night, Sabrina became someone else entirely. She was drawn to the darker side of Valorous, to the shadowy clubs and hidden corners where the rules of society no longer applied. She was captivated by the freedom that existed in these forbidden spaces, where no one cared about reputation or status, where people could be their truest selves without fear of judgment. For Sabrina, the nights offered a release from the rigid constraints of her daytime life, a chance to explore her own desires, no matter how dangerous or forbidden. The night world of Valorous was intoxicating. There were secret gatherings in the abandoned parts of the city, masked balls where the wealthy and the powerful mingled with the poor and the outcast, where identities were hidden and inhibitions shed. The air was thick with the scent of incense and wine, and the sounds of music and laughter echoed through the streets. Sabrina had first stumbled upon this world by accident, but once she had tasted its freedom, she couldn't stay away. She became a regular at these gatherings, slipping on a mask and stepping into the shadows, leaving behind the dull, predictable life of the seamstress. But with freedom came danger. The line between pleasure and peril was thin in the forbidden night world of Valorous. Sabrina knew the risks she was taking. The city's rulers had no tolerance for those who broke the rules of propriety and order. Public decency was enforced with an iron fist, and those caught indulging in the darker pleasures of the night faced severe punishment. Despite the risk, Sabrina couldn't help herself. The thrill of walking that line, of flirting with danger, only made the nights more seductive. One evening, as Sabrina prepared for another night in the shadows, she heard a knock at her door. It was soft, hesitant, as if the visitor was unsure whether to disturb her. She opened the door cautiously, and standing there was a man she had never seen before. He was tall, dressed in a cloak that concealed much of his face, but she could see the sharpness in his eyes. "You're Sabrina, aren't you?" he asked quietly, his voice low and smooth. Sabrina's heart skipped a beat. "Who are you?" The man stepped closer, glancing around to ensure no one was watching. "My name is Callan. I know where you go at night. I've seen you in the clubs, at the gatherings." Panic surged through Sabrina. "You're mistaken," she said quickly, trying to shut the door. But Callan pressed his hand against it, keeping it open. "Don't worry," he said, his tone softening. "I'm not here to expose you. In fact, I need your help." Sabrina hesitated, her pulse racing. "Why should I trust you?" Callan removed his cloak, revealing his face. His features were sharp, almost aristocratic, but his clothes were simple, unremarkable. He was not one of the elite who ruled Valorous, but he wasn't poor, either. There was something about him that suggested he lived in both worlds, just as she did. "I'm looking for someone," he said. "A woman named Elise. She disappeared a few nights ago. I've asked around, but no one will talk to me. They're all too afraid. But I know you move through these circles. You might have seen something." Sabrina frowned. The name Elise was vaguely familiar, but she couldn't place it. "Why are you looking for her?" "She's my sister," Callan said, his voice tight with emotion. "She got caught up in this world, the same way you did. But I think she was in over her head. The last place anyone saw her was at one of the clubs. I'm afraid something's happened to her." Sabrina's heart sank. The night world of Valorous was seductive, but it was also dangerous. People disappeared sometimes. They got too close to the wrong people or made enemies in the wrong places. The authorities didn't care if someone went missing from the shadows, that they only cared if their carefully maintained door was threatened. "I don't know if I can help," Sabrina said quietly. "I haven't seen her." Callan's expression darkened, his desperation clear. "Please. You're the only one who can help me. I know you're part of that world. If you ask the right questions, maybe someone will talk to you. I just need to know what happened to her." Sabrina considered his request. She wanted to say no, to shut the door and pretend none of this was happening. Getting involved in something like this could be dangerous, especially if Elise had crossed the wrong people. But something in Callan's eyes stopped her. He wasn't just desperate, he was afraid. Afraid of what had happened to his sister, and afraid of what might happen to him if he didn't find her. "All right," Sabrina said finally. "I'll help you. But I can't promise anything." Callan nodded, relief washing over his face. "Thank you. Anything you can find out will help." That night, Sabrina ventured into the shadows with a new purpose. She moved through the clubs, the hidden bars, and the masked gatherings, asking questions carefully, cautiously. She didn't mention Elise's name directly at first, only hinting at a woman who had gone missing. The responses she received were vague, dismissive. People didn't like to talk about those who disappeared. It was as if acknowledging it might bring the same fate upon them. But then, in one of the darker corners of the city, a woman wearing a jeweled mask leaned in close to Sabrina and whispered, "You're looking for Elise, aren't you?" Sabrina froze. "You know her?" The woman nodded. "She was here a few nights ago. With a man. I didn't recognize him, but he wasn't from around here. They left together." "Where did they go?" The woman hesitated, glancing around as if afraid someone might overhear. "There's a place in the old quarter. A mansion, abandoned for years. People say strange things happen there. People go in, and they don't come out." Sabrina's stomach tightened. She had heard rumors of the mansion, a place where the darkest desires of the city's elite were indulged, far from the eyes of the law. If Elise had gone there, it was unlikely she had left. Sabrina returned to Callan with the news. His face grew pale when she told him about the mansion. "I know the place," he said quietly. "It's dangerous, Sabrina. if she's 3 broken bar. We have to go, Sabrina interrupted, her voice firm. You asked for my help. Now you're going to get it. But we go together. Callan hesitated, then nodded. That night, they made their way to the mansion in the old quarter. The building loomed over them, its windows dark and its doors half-rotted. The air was thick with tension, as if the mansion itself were alive, watching them approach. Inside, the air was stifling, and the silence was oppressive. They moved through the grand halls, their footsteps echoing in the empty space. The further they ventured, the more Sabrina felt a sense of dread creeping over her. Something was wrong here. The shadows seemed to twist and move in unnatural ways, and the air felt thick, as if weighed down by the secrets hidden within these walls. At last, they found Elise. She was alive, but barely. She was locked in a small room, her face pale and her body weak. Callan rushed to her side, his voice breaking as he called her name. They were going to use her, a voice said from behind them. Sabrina turned, and standing in the doorway was a man she recognized from the clubs. He was one of the city's elite, a man with power and influence. His expression was cold, cruel. This is a place for those who have no limits, he said softly. Elise thought she could play in our world, but she didn't understand the rules. Without thinking, Sabrina stepped between Callan and the man. We're leaving. All of us. The man smiled. You're brave. But bravery won't save you. Sabrina felt her heart race, but she stood her ground. You can't stop us. The man's smile faded. He stepped aside, his eyes gleaming with malice. Go then. But remember, this world doesn't forget. The night always calls those who walk too far into it. Sabrina helped Callan carry Elise out of the mansion. As they emerged into the cool night air, Sabrina felt the weight of the night world pressing down on her. She had always thought the darkness offered freedom, but now she understood its dangers more clearly than ever. As they walked away, Sabrina realized that the night had given her something she hadn't expected: clarity. Desire, when unchecked, could lead to ruin. Freedom was a powerful thing, but it came with consequences. She had seen how easily the line between indulgence and destruction could blur. The forbidden nights had lost their allure. Sabrina had escaped, but she knew others wouldn't be so lucky. The pursuit of unchecked desires can lead to dangerous places, and the allure of freedom without responsibility often comes with hidden costs. What may begin as thrilling indulgence can quickly become a trap, where the price of escape is far greater than the rewards of surrender. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.